immediately starts flowing through that private LLC. We're talking millions of dollars from Turning Point and from Turning Point PAC. Right around that same exact time, Tyler Boyer, who could barely handle his HOA fees, buys a $1.9 million mansion with $600,000 down in cash.
Interesting. TPUSA has some serious explaining to do after $8.5 million goes into a shell company, doesn't provide any paperwork for the money, misses IRS.
Erika Kirk and the rest of her TPUSA crew were left completely stunned when they received the notice that every single TPUSA account was allegedly getting frozen by the IRS. Right in the middle of an investigation, word circulating is the IRS claims it now possesses proof that money inside TPUSA was moving in ways it absolutely should not have been moving. That is not a small accusation. That is serious heat. Honestly, the only individuals acting surprised are Erika and its TPUSA squad. Because for months, whistleblowers have been waving red flags declaring TPUSA's finances appear shady and off the books. Viewers were already whispering that the numbers didn't add up correctly. And now, those whispers are transforming into loud inquiries. And now it gets messy. Remember TPUSA's so-called All-American Super Bowl halftime show? That whole deal has reportedly blown up because Kid Rock allegedly never got paid, and he's not keeping quiet about it. He has made it clear that if he doesn't receive his check fast, he's ready to expose everything he understands about TPUSA's money moves. So if Kid Rock is speaking up now, who else might be lining up to tell their side of the narrative next? This could crack wide open. So when the IRS showed up at TPUSA's front door, it wasn't a friendly visit, it was straight pressure.
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
According to insiders, the whole TPUSA office is in complete panic mode right now because they allegedly never witnessed this storm coming. Now they're scrambling to cut costs anywhere they can, trimming budgets left and right. And that might explain why Kid Rock still hasn't been paid for that TPUSA halftime show. The implications are massive. When a major organization suddenly can't pay its headline performer, that signals way deeper financial problems than just cash flow issues. This looks like the type of financial chaos that happens when money's been mismanaged for a long time. To understand the drama, you gotta examine what that show was supposed to be. It was promoted as TPUSA's major flagship gathering, a loud and proud patriotic alternative to Bad Bunny's halftime performance at the Super Bowl. Erika hyped it up as component of an anti-wokeness movement. But behind all the red, white, and blue discussion, it was reportedly tied directly into TPUSA's fundraising engine. The entire event was structured as a money-generating machine from the start. Tickets were priced sky high, merchandise was pushed aggressively, and sponsorship deals were stacked on top of each other. It wasn't just about putting on a show, it was about maximizing revenue from every possible angle. And when you build an event purely around profit instead of purpose, people eventually notice. Then came the backlash. Complaints started pouring in about the quality of the show, even Kid Rock's performance. Viewers were declaring it felt rushed, underfunded, and low effort. Instead of being some epic cultural moment, it allegedly appeared like a quick cash grab. Another way to pull in sponsors, push merch, and charge sky-high ticket prices. That is not the kind of spotlight they were hoping for. Despite the weak performance and the brutal reviews, Kid Rock and the rest of the crew still expected to get paid like any professional would. That is when this whole thing reportedly flipped from bad press to a straight-up money crisis. According to insiders, Kid Rock's check was allegedly withheld on orders from TPUSA leadership. The reason being whispered around? They supposedly didn't possess the cash on hand to cover it.
Of course it was pre-recorded. They were literally watching the Super Bowl. That TPU USA halftime show was a mess. I watched it, so y'all didn't have to. And yes, Kid Rock was lip syncing.
Think about how wild that is. An organization that just raised millions supposedly can't pay one performer? That's not just poor planning. That suggests money's either been misallocated or it's disappeared entirely. The moment word leaked that Kid Rock hadn't been paid, viewers started connecting dots lightning fast. Insiders began linking the IRS account freeze rumors with the missing funds. Vendors were reportedly asking the identical inquiry at the exact identical time. If the headline act cannot receive his money, then who else is still waiting on a check? That inquiry alone was sufficient to send the entire place into panic mode. Because once vendors start talking to each other and comparing notes, they realize they're all getting the same runaround. And when multiple people are owed money simultaneously, that's when class action lawsuits start becoming a real possibility. Now, for some viewers, this alleged IRS situation might seem shocking, but for those who have been monitoring TPUSA closely since Charlie's elimination, it registers less like a surprise and more like a slow-motion train wreck. Critics have been raising concerns for months. Candace Owens was one of the loudest voices publicly questioning how much money TPUSA had been bringing in and where it was all going. She claimed the numbers didn't add up and that certain funds couldn't genuinely be explained at the time.
I will repeat for clarity. Someone at Turning Point decided not to file 3 of the 4 of their annual financial statements 4 months before Charlie Kirk appointed a new COO, requested a new audit, and was murdered.
Many brushed her off, calling her a hater or claiming she was jealous. Now viewers are examining back at those warnings with a whole fresh level of attention. Candace wasn't speculating. She was highlighting red flags that everyone else was too afraid to acknowledge. Now the pressure is building from every side. With accounts allegedly frozen and payments reportedly delayed, staff members are declared to be looking over their shoulders, wondering what comes next. Some insiders claim emergency meetings have been materializing behind closed doors with leadership attempting to figure out how to control the damage before it spirals even more. When money inquiries start stacking up like this, it is not just a small hiccup. It shakes the whole operation from top to bottom. The foundation starts crumbling, and everyone inside can feel the walls closing in. Nobody wants to be the last person standing when everything collapses. Donors are also starting to ask quiet but serious inquiries. Viewers who once wrote major checks with confidence reportedly want clarity about where their contributions went and how funds were managed. Transparency is the word being thrown around a lot right now. If supporters begin to lose trust, that can strike harder than any headline. Reputation is everything in these networks. And once doubt creeps in, it spreads fast like wildfire. Major donors don't just pull their funding quietly. They talk to other donors, they share concerns, and suddenly an entire funding base can evaporate. That's exactly what leadership is terrified of right now. Meanwhile, critics are monitoring closely and declaring this moment was bound to materialize. They argue that rapid growth without strong oversight can create cracks under the surface. Whether these allegations prove authentic or not, the spotlight is locked and tight. The genuine issue now is accountability. If mistakes were made, viewers will expect answers. And if everything was handled properly, leadership will require receipts to back it up. Because right now the heat is genuine, and it is not cooling off anytime soon. The clock is ticking, and every day without clear answers makes the situation worse. Candace even brought a private investigator onto her podcast, somebody who claimed he took a deep dive into TPUSA's financial records, and what he shared raised numerous eyebrows. According to him, TPUSA allegedly had several missing tax documents. He also claimed that one of its subsidiaries didn't possess any tax filings for 2024. That is not a small paperwork slip. That is the type of thing that gets serious attention fast from federal authorities.
The message is a singular message. It is the Christian right. It is supporting MAGA. It is the ridiculous.
When tax documents are missing for an entire year, that's not an oversight. That's either incompetence or deliberate concealment. Either way, it's a massive problem that can't be explained away easily. What genuinely caught viewers off guard was his claim that these discrepancies didn't suddenly appear after Charlie's elimination. He declared the issues may have started earlier. In reality, Charlie himself had reportedly noticed unusual money movement inside his organization. And before his elimination, he had ordered a complete audit of the company's finances because he wanted clarity on where funds were going. That detail alone changed the tone of the conversation completely. Because if Charlie was investigating his own organization's finances before he passed, that suggests he suspected something was seriously wrong. Maybe he was starting to ask the wrong questions to the wrong people. Maybe he was getting too close to uncovering something that powerful people wanted to keep hidden. Then circumstances took an even more intense turn. The moment Charlie passed, TPUSA reportedly launched an aggressive merch and fundraising push. The very next day, the website was flooded with fresh t-shirts and products honoring him, presenting him as a martyr figure. Supporters rushed to purchase items, and multiple GoFundMe pages were opened in TPUSA's identity. Those campaigns alone reportedly pulled in close to $10 million. One major fundraiser promoted through Tucker Carlson's brand reportedly brought in over $5 million by itself, and that was just the start. There were tours, royalties, book sales, and paid speaking appearances.
I think We're at like over 200,000 for merch sales. Don't quote me on that because I think it just keeps like bumping up like crazy. But
Every single one of those created fresh streams of money flowing in and out of TPUSA. The speed of that rollout was suspicious to many observers. How do you have merchandise designed, printed, and ready to sell within 24 hours of someone's passing unless you had it prepared in advance? That level of organization doesn't happen spontaneously. It requires planning. And if there was planning, that raises extremely uncomfortable questions about who knew what and when. According to investigators speaking publicly, that flood of activity may have also created a complicated money trail that pointed straight back to leadership. Now, critics are asking who was tracking all of it, and where exactly did it all land? The inquiries just keep stacking up. As more details started surfacing, the focus shifted from just missing paperwork to a bigger inquiry: who was actually overseeing all this money? When you possess millions flowing in from merch, online fundraisers, live gatherings, book deals, and speaking tours, there has to be tight control. Critics are now declaring the structure inside TPUSA may not have been constructed to handle that type of cash surge. And that is where circumstances allegedly began to fall apart.
It's interesting because he asked her the question, do you think these protests are helping? Personally.
Investigators and commentators have highlighted that rapid fundraising after an emotional moment can bring in massive support fast, but without clear accounting and proper documentation, that identical wave of support can transform into a compliance nightmare. Some insiders claim there were internal concerns about transparency, but those concerns never completely made it into the public light. Now, with the IRS reportedly stepping in, every past decision is being re-examined under a microscope. Every transaction, every transfer, every questionable payment is getting scrutinized. And when federal investigators start digging, they don't stop until they find what they're looking for. They have subpoena power, forensic accountants, and unlimited resources. There is also growing discussion about leadership responsibility. When an organization expands quickly and money moves through multiple channels, the individuals at the top are expected to understand what is materializing. That doesn't automatically mean wrongdoing, but it does mean accountability becomes unavoidable. Donors, vendors, and supporters all want the identical thing: clear answers and clean books. At this point, the situation is less about rumors and more about documentation. If everything was handled correctly, records will display that.
The podcaster Candace Owens, okay? At one time, a friend of Charlie's, at one time, an employee of Turning Point. She has been one of the main peddlers of these conspiracies, and she is making a huge amount of money on it. She is building her business off of these lies. What do you want to say to her and the other people that are putting these lies out into the world right now?
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
If mistakes were made, they will likely surface. Either way, pressure is building, and the spotlight on TPUSA leadership is brighter than ever. This is no longer just online chatter. It is a full-blown financial storm that demands genuine explanations. The walls are closing in from every direction, and there's nowhere left to hide. Every day without transparency makes the entire organization look more guilty. See, it wasn't just the merch drops or the non-stop fundraising that rubbed viewers the wrong way. It was how energized Erika seemed through all of it. She framed everything as honoring Charlie's legacy and keeping his mission alive. That was the public message, but numerous supporters stopped buying that narrative after a leaked audio clip exploded across social platforms. The recording was reportedly from a private Zoom call between Erika and her TPUSA staff. What genuinely struck viewers hard was the tone. This call allegedly took place just days after Charlie's elimination, and listeners declared it didn't sound like somebody grieving. In the clip, she can be heard laughing, Mom cracking jokes, and even discussing how much money TPUSA had generated from Charlie's memorial efforts. For many supporters, that contrast felt jarring and deeply inappropriate. The disconnect between her public grieving widow persona and her private celebratory tone was impossible to ignore. People online started asking uncomfortable inquiries. They wondered how much of Erika's public message was genuinely about faith and legacy, and how much of it was about maximizing donations during an emotional moment. The shift in public opinion was fast and loud. Supporters who once defended her began declaring the energy in that call didn't match the heartbreak she had described publicly. What added even more fuel to the backlash was what she didn't address during public appearances.
And as a part of her Shabbat Shalom PR blitz, she conducted her very first interview from Charlie's home office. And yet, curiously, that wedding photo is missing.
Erika reportedly avoided direct answers about the financial rumors surrounding TPUSA. Instead of calming concerns with transparency, critics declare she took a tougher stance on air. She pushed back hard against those demanding financial clarity and even warned critics to be careful about spreading accusations. That defensive posture only made people more suspicious. When someone's innocent, they typically welcome transparency because it clears their name. As the backlash kept growing, more former insiders and critics began stepping forward, declaring the culture inside TPUSA had changed long before the public caught on. Some claimed there was increasing pressure to prioritize revenue over everything else. Fundraising targets allegedly became more aggressive, sponsorship deals more urgent, and gatherings more about profit margins than purpose. That shift, they declare, didn't materialize overnight. Supporters who once felt deeply connected to the mission started re-examining old clips, old speeches, and old campaigns. They began asking whether the messaging about faith, values, and legacy matched what was materializing behind the scenarios. When emotion and money mix at that level, viewers expect sensitivity and accountability. Instead, critics argue the response felt defensive and guarded. Meanwhile, vendors and partners were reportedly monitoring closely. In situations like this, reputation can affect contracts, collaborations, and future bookings. If there is even a hint of financial instability, business relationships can get shaky fast. That is why the alleged IRS involvement turned up the pressure even more. It is not just about public opinion, it is about operational survival. Through all of this, Erika has continued to present a confident front publicly. She has emphasized strength, resilience, and staying focused on the mission. But confidence alone doesn't quiet detailed financial inquiries. Viewers want documentation, timelines, and clear explanations. They want to understand who approved what, when decisions were made, and how funds were tracked. Without that transparency, all the confidence in the world won't stop the questions. As the protest grew louder outside, the contrast was impossible to ignore. Inside the church, music was performing, lights were flashing, and speakers were discussing unity and revival. Outside, chants echoed through the parking lot, and protesters demanded answers about finances, leadership, and political ties. The tension in the atmosphere was thick, and everyone could sense it. Videos from that night spread fast across social platforms. Clips displayed demonstrators holding signs, debating attendees, and calling on Erika to address the mounting controversies directly. Some attendees appeared uncomfortable walking past the crowd. Others defended the tour and pushed back against the criticism. It transformed into a complete public clash of beliefs right there on the sidewalk. For Erika, this was no longer just online chatter or a few critics on podcasts. This was real-world pushback at her own gathering. Viewers weren't whispering anymore. They were showing up in person. That type of pressure strikes different. It forces a response whether you're ready for it or not. Observers declare this moment could mark a turning point. When financial inquiries, leaked audio, unpaid vendors, and political protests all collide at once, the spotlight becomes intense. Supporters want reassurance, critics want accountability, and neutral observers just want clear facts. So while Erika was on stage preaching about faith revival and spiritual awakening, just outside those church doors, it was straight chaos. Protesters were chanting, cameras were rolling, and tensions were running high. Instead of calming the situation or acknowledging the concerns, Erika reportedly made circumstances even more explosive by referring to anti-Israel protesters as demonic. That comment lit a match in an already heated moment. At that point, even some of her longtime defenders started pulling back. Viewers who had been giving her the benefit of the doubt suddenly switched sides and began openly criticizing her tone. Social platforms flipped fast. The conversation shifted from just financial concerns to character and leadership. Folks started asking if this was genuinely the right way to handle serious inquiries. But under all that backlash, one major inquiry kept rising to the surface. Why was Erika so determined to label anyone asking for transparency from TPUSA as an enemy? That is where the reported IRS investigations started appearing a lot more serious to outside observers. Protecting privacy is one thing. Shutting down every attempt to examine deeper into your organization is something else entirely. When viewers feel like basic inquiries are being treated as attacks, trust starts to crack. And now enter Kid Rock again. According to reports, he is not planning to just walk away quietly. It doesn't matter that the concert was framed as a tribute to Charlie Kirk or promoted as a heartfelt mission to uplift what was described as real America. From his perspective, work is work, and payment is payment. Insiders claim he completely expects to receive what he is owed. If Kid Rock does decide to go public in a major way, the situation could level up fast. When a headline performer starts discussing unpaid checks and behind-the-scenarios money issues, viewers listen. He possesses a platform, he possesses connections, and he understands how to grab attention. That alone could shift this from internal drama to a national headline overnight. What makes this even more intense is timing. TPUSA is already dealing with reported IRS scrutiny, public protests, leaked audio, and growing donor inquiries. Adding a public payment dispute with a well-known artist could stack even more pressure on leadership. It is one thing for critics to speculate. It is another thing for somebody directly involved to declare, "I didn't get paid." That strikes different. There is also the ripple effect to think about. If one performer speaks up, others might feel more comfortable sharing their own experiences. Vendors, contractors, event staff, anyone still waiting on payments could decide to advance forward. That is how situations like this snowball. One voice transforms into two transform into 10, and suddenly the narrative is out of your control. That is the component causing serious panic inside Erika's camp right now. Because if the IRS rumors turn out to be authentic, the last thing they need is a frustrated artist deciding to cooperate with federal investigators and handing over paperwork that could trace straight back to TPUSA. At that point, it is no longer just gossip. It becomes documentation. So leadership is reportedly stuck with two options: resolve the payment fast or brace for the fallout. And let's be real, Kid Rock is not some quiet contractor you can just ignore. He's loud, well-connected, and not afraid to speak his mind if he feels disrespected or unpaid. Insiders declare he's completely capable of taking that fight public. And when federal investigators witness a high-profile figure waving around contracts, invoices, or receipts, they pay attention. That is not something anyone under scrutiny wants added to the mix. Meanwhile, behind the scenarios, Erika's squad is reportedly moving like individuals who understand the clock is ticking. An IRS account freeze, if accurate, doesn't just create bad headlines, it forces vendors, performers, and insiders to start protecting themselves first. Loyalty shifts fast when legal exposure becomes a possibility. What once appeared airtight inside TPUSA is now being described as tense and cautious. Sources claim some insiders are screenshotting emails, saving contracts, and organizing records to make sure their identities aren't dragged into anything unexpected. That type of behavior signals one thing: self-preservation mode. While Erika continues projecting confidence on stage, critics believe the operation behind the curtain has flipped completely into damage control. The genuine fear is not just public backlash. It is the moment when the first insider decides protecting their own future matters more than protecting leadership. Because once somebody starts discussing and bringing receipts, you cannot stuff that genie back in the bottle. And if that day comes, the consequences could strike hard and fast. If you have been following this narrative, drop your thoughts in the responses below. Make sure you like this material, subscribe to the channel, and share this with anyone who needs to witness it. Stay locked in, and I will catch you on the next one.